Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming. My name is Bernard. I'm a bookseller here at Politics and Prose. On behalf of the owners of the staff, I'd like to welcome all of you to this evening's event. As you may already know, Politics and Prose hosts hundreds of in-person events along with our partnered events, supported events, trips, and classes, some of which are now being held at our new location. We recently moved our locations from at our Union Market location and our Wharf location. We recently moved them, so we are also now hosting events at those branches as well. So for a full list, please check our website. A little bit of housekeeping before we start. First of all, please turn off or silence your cell phones so as not to disturb the event. For the Q&A, please remember to step up to the microphone over here before asking your questions so we can not only hear and enjoy the conversation, but to also ensure that it is recorded. For those of you who want to buy copies of the book, we are selling them right out front by the cash registers. We will be doing a signing after the Q&A, so if you'd like to get your book signed, please, once again, line up by the pillar over here, and we will come by for personalizations, so please have your book ready for us. And lastly, once the event is complete, we ask that you fold up your chairs, lean them against something sturdy to help us out a bit. I am honored to introduce Michael Arceneaux to all of you. Michael is the New York Times-bestselling author of I Can't Date Jesus and I Don't Want to Die Poor. His writing has appeared in numerous publications, including The Guardian, New York Magazine, The Washington Post, and The New York Times. Tonight, he will be talking about his new collection of essays, I Finally Bought Some Jordans. With his trademark humor and insight, Michael has written these wonderful group of essays whose subjects range from opportunities afforded to Black creatives, but also the doors that remain shut or ever so slightly ajar, to the confounding challenges of dating in a time when social media has made everything both more accessible and more unreliable. In a starter review from Booklist, they write that the book of essays is his keenest and best yet, informed by the clarity of priorities that comes with making art in our era of public health disaster and racial reckoning. Arceneaux is a hilarious and brilliant analyst of culture for whom the pandemic blurred the boundaries between personal, emotional experience and entertainment. Tonight, he will be in conversation with Bassey Ikpi, a Nigerian American writer and mental health advocate. Her debut essay collection, I'm Telling the Truth, But I'm Lying, was an instant New York Times bestseller. She is an active voice in the mental health community and a pop culture connoisseur. Her essays on both topics can be found on platforms including The New York Times, The Root, and OK Africa. Everyone, let us all welcome Michael Arceneaux and Bassey Ikpi.
I'm so glad people came. Hi, y'all.
Hello? Am I on? Hello? Hello? Am I on now? I don't hear myself. Hi, everyone. How y'all doing? Thank you for being here on a Monday evening. It's evening, right?
Yes.
Monday evening. I'm so happy to be here with Michael. He's one of my favorite people in the world. And if you read any of his books, you'll know why he's my favorite person in the world. He's a brilliant writer, amazing human being. And yeah, let's get started.
Yes, I hope y'all all are having a better day than Puffy.
Do you want to talk about it?
We can. You know, I almost actually named a book reference. I wanted to call I Wish I Danced Like Puff Daddy. Thank God I didn't do that.
Oh my gosh.
We had to set that on fire. I'm sorry, follow your lead.
Well, I mean, now I want to talk about Puffy.
We can.
Well, no, let's
so
talk
kidding.
about it. Okay, so I finally bought some Jordans.
Yes.
Is it a trilogy? Are you going in like...
It was initially supposed to be a trilogy. As of now, it's still a trilogy. I am debating whether or not I have a title in mind for maybe something I want to write. It depends. It's something that I had a conversation with my mom, and so it's a name that sticks out. If I actually want to still write about that, I'm still weighing if I really want to tackle that next. So this might be the end of the trilogy, but I actually have another title. I think it might just continue, actually.
Okay, I'm going to ask you about it later.
Okay.
So walk us through the line from I Can't Date Jesus to I finally bought some Jordans?
So I always, well, I Can't Date Jesus was actually related to my mom too. The book initially, that book was called, I think, Fire Ants. I had a lot of different names for that book before it actually was sold. And then True to Life, I had a conversation with my mom. For those that read I Can't Date Jesus, they understand like the backstory. It was kind of like her being a devout Catholic, wrestling with, you know, what I write about being taught what you're taught to believe about gay people, and us having a conversation with her understanding that like I'm born gay. Like she was enough to like know that, but it was like, well, don't act on it, which is a very Catholic way of thinking things. And it was kind of like, well, girl, I can't date Jesus. What you want me to do? So that's how that started. I Don't Want to Die Poor was very blunt. I think that was just the best way I could describe writing a book about how private student loan debt impacted every facet of my life. And I had a different title initially for this third book, but it wasn't a good fit. And actually my friend here, when it came to me, I just remember bopping and Sativa was involved, and it hit me. And then first person I asked, and he's a good friend but a hard critic, but he was like, I like that, and I was like, that's the title. So it just actually made more sense. And whenever I tried to explain it to people, they just bust out laughing. So I usually want to make you laugh if you hear a book title from me. So it worked out how it was supposed to.
I was introduced to your work via your column, or your blog, I guess. It's not
Yes,
really
the
a
blog,
column.
yes.
How long ago was that?
A long time ago, and thank y'all for knowing the names, some of y'all. It's like, when did that start? 2005? Wow.
Oh, wow.
It's the Snap era, yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's funny because we were both like 10.
Yeah, we'll go with 10, yes.
10 years old. It's prodigy levels of writing. But what I love about your work is that you're able to take what is the macro, as far as like what's going on in the world, and use your micro personal journey to like illustrate that. In this latest book, I was reading about your apartment with the roaches, and I was all in there. I was laughing. I was like, "Oh, we're here!" And then
Oh, wait,
went.
I'm gonna just put that up. I didn't have roaches. It was an
Well,
Airbnb
yes.
from Roaches with a Trump supporter.
I just assumed.
I didn't have roaches. Yes, sorry.
I'm working under the auspice that you've read the book.
Yes.
It's been out for a week. You've all read the book, correct?
If not,
Wow,
it's okay. Y'all still got time.
I mean, you can. It's not.
I
Yes.
believe.
We're not going to kick you out if you haven't read it. I just. So Airbnb had roaches.
Yes.
But what you did was you swung that into January 6th.
Yes.
And I was sitting there reading the book, and I screamed when you made the loop because it was so well done. And you do that a lot. You find a way to connect, to bring us into a situation based on where you started your own story. Is that intentional? How do you do that?
It is intentional. I've complained to you about this privately for years.
We're trying to act like we don't know
She
each
knows
other.
my very long journey in getting a book sold, but long story short version, people have very dumb, reductive, biased views about whose stories are universal, whose stories have wide appeal, whose stories matter. I think usually the only gay black male writer that people care to talk about politically is like James Baldwin, and God bless the dead, but he's been going more than 30 years. I've always had a strong interest in politics and pop culture. I've always tried to, even on my blog, weave in that personal stuff because I think, to be blunt, white writers usually have that. And actually, one of my favorite people is in the audience who helped inspire that. Hi, Helena. So she was also really like a template. She very much helped me influence my proposal, but she reminded me that I too could do that. And so it was always really intentional, but ultimately I try to write from like I write from my perspective, which is working class or poor, black, Southern, like usually people who are looked through or talked to rather than people are actually able to speak back. And being allowed to be published by a major publisher, to be in these spaces, I want it to be like, if I'm actually allowed the privilege to publish a book, I want to be very intentional about what it is I want to say, and that my personal story has as much value as everybody else's, and that my personal history and background informs my political ideology in a way, again, I don't think people like me are usually like afforded. So I try to be very intentional about that because I just think the South got something to say, I got something to say. Like I just was very intentional about my story matters just as much as everybody else's, because you get that all the time from others, but you don't really get that from us. So I was very thank you for asking that because I was very intentional about wanting to do that.
You did a fantastic job in that. You said nothing was off the table.
No.
And so I want to ask how you are and how the last couple of months, weeks, days have been for you.
I'm not doing okay. I'm very sad. I don't. If you all don't know, I recently lost my mom. It'll be 5 months later this week to cancer. It was a very quick. The last year was the worst year of my life. That very much has a lot to do with it. I am carrying a lot of pain and a lot of grief, and I am being very vocal about it. Not to be a downer, but to be honest, because I think that's just where I'm at, and that if to not be that honest would be kind of a detriment, or like from my books or just my writing in general. That said, I'm as sad as I am. I do feel supported. As stressed as I am, I still have hope. As worried as I am about myself and my family, I was raised to have faith and to work hard and to keep going. And as difficult as that is and has been, I really try to. I just keep hearing my mom say, "Do your work." So I've been really trying to do my work. I wasn't necessarily looking forward to releasing a book so soon after this. In all honesty, the book is actually even a year late. For those of you who have read it so far, you'll understand that like grief had already started to inform and delay my process. So it's just been hard, and then my mom losing that just has been kind of really overwhelming. So I'll be honest, it's just weird. Like it's not really. I'm grateful, but it's not necessarily like a big time of celebration for me. Having said that, like I've really been truly warmed by people showing up in my events, people writing really kind things, people from high school, people from Houston that I know and that I don't know. I honestly, in my grief and the strike and all, like that really impacted a lot of my goals. It's I question or not, like whether I really had value, whether stuff that I did was wrong. I really have been wrestling with whether my work and my pursuits kept me away from my mom. Having said that, having people tell me that my work has really impacted them, I'm really being reminded that like my work matters and I really have made an impact. So as sad as I am, I'm like genuinely grateful and trying to like fight to stay in that space. But it is very much hour by the hour depending. And I honestly didn't realize DC would be as triggering as it's been, but not in like the worst way. But it reminds me, I'm like, this is the first place where my mom, which is a testament to our relationship, even if she necessarily didn't agree with my choices or understand them, she supported me. She sacrificed to get me here. Even if she didn't understand, she loved me so much and she believed me that she pushed me. So as sad as that makes me, it also just reminds me like gratitude. And I feel like she's, with me. Yeah. Well, she is with me, but yes. It's always really long-winded, but
No, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
It's beautiful. And I one of the things that's always stricken. English is my second language. You write about her so lovingly in all your books. Like it's not, oh, something happened, I'm writing about her. Like you write about her and the love is so visceral, and you can tell by the way you write about her how much she loved you as well. And what you did in this latest book, is you wrote such a tribute to her as a mother without really knowing. I assume you didn't know.
I had no idea.
Yeah,
honestly.
but the story or the essay where you're talking about the winter storm in Houston, when she showed up,
Banging on the door, like, get out, come on. And I'm like,
literally cried.
Yeah, my aunts actually showed up in my book event in Houston, even my pops. And my aunt that actually the one that always went to bat for me about my mom, and because that my first book was a bit of a riff, but we got better. But she was the one that really pushed her, like, you need to understand he came from a good place. She told me how much she loved that because she was like, that's definitely my sister, that's your mom. Like, banging on the door, I'm like with my mid-late 30s, she's like, get out, like, you coming with me. That is very much my mom, like, not only just the love of her kids, but just like a general selflessness. And I love her as a mother, but I honestly I respect her so much as a person. She really is the foundation of like my ideology, how I look at the world, how I want to treat people, and kind of a really. I don't want to. I'm gonna say this right. Like I think a lot of. I learned a lot about who is undervalued the most and who's looked through the most, and that's often black women. That's often black women in the South. That's also black women not born with like means, and how people look through you and how people treat you. And yet, she always just had. She just held her head high. She was always graceful. She was always looking for like. Always had an intellectual curiosity. She just was a really amazing, great person, and even seeing how my father would often treat her, it made me be very clear of like, it's not how you treat people. That's not how you treat women. That's how you need to know how you value just people who touch your lives. I don't, saying that right, but just, I learned so much about her. I just admire, I mean, I obviously appreciate her as a mom, but like, she's always been my favorite person because she's just always been so amazing. And I would always tell her that, and she'd be like, oh boy. I'm like, no, like I've been fortunate enough through you to meet a lot of people. I believe in people, but a lot of people suck. I'm like, no, you really are great. So, yeah, I'm very much a mama's boy to my core, but also it's just kind of learning people. I'm like, a lot of people are not made like her, which is why it hurts so much, but yeah.
Why am I the one getting emotional? How has your relationship with your dad changed in the last couple of months? Or has it?
We actually were already, I mean, better is relative, but you know, in learning through, I'm very honest about how I grew up, and I'm very honest about my feelings, but I would like to think that I've also at the same time always gave grace to my dad, because people that you might think are monstrous or whatever, and all these factors like that comes from someplace, and I know my dad's history. I know why he is the way that he is, and I think in learning why he is the way that he is and what it contributes to like some of his issues, it helped me give him grace, and it also like, you got to meet people where they're at. Like, I think sometimes when I would do interviews, and particularly who just, I don't know how, because I don't want to be too colloquial if they recording, but let's just say, like a street dude, like my dad is not going to respond in certain ways. Like, it was never going to be like closure, like on certain TV shows and movies. Like, that ain't real life in my house. So we're better. I can't say that word, but like, he'd be like, yeah, they love me. Like, I even just started to say I love you like a few years ago because I knew he needed to hear that, because he doesn't feel loved, and he doesn't, a lot of men like of that age or any age don't communicate needing that. So even when he shrugs it off, or even if he like whatever, I'm like, I love you, Pop. Yeah, and then he still appreciates, I love you too. You love me. So he appreciates it. Having said that, we still are better. My dad is my dad. He can wear everybody out, but I love him, and you know, I'm gonna do right by him because I was raised to do right by my folks, and my mom would want me to be right by him. So we're okay. I'm actually really proud he went to my book event and behaved.
When I texted you, you said I hope he behaves. What is not behaving? What does misbehaving look like?
Well, to be very clear, I was like, girl, don't ask about him, because he gonna set it off in here, and my people here, and this will get real hood real quick. Let's not, you got us in this nice gallery. I'm like, we not from this part of town. Let's not do this. So that was fun. But honestly, he was there. He was like, he was like, he called me afterwards. He was like, you an intelligent fucker. I was like, thank you, Pop. And he should have been a doctor, which he ended up repeating yesterday. So it was like a mix of pride and like, why are you writing for a living? Shouldn't you be doing something else? But it was actually
you're so smart.
Yes, but in his own way, like that was actually very sweet. He really, I'm glad he went. I'm glad he saw me in that element. My brother, who was an artist, was actually included. So it was actually really nice. I think my mom would get a big kick out of all of it. But it was actually nice for him to see me in that way, because he actually never really has.
Yeah.
And whenever we talk about work, I think he vaguely knew that. I mean, he knew I wrote because my mom would fill him in, or I'd tell him I'm doing stuff. But it was like through his homeboys who saw me on like the Breakfast Club, who would fill him in. Like, I saw Mike on the Breakfast Club. What you doing? You know, something like that. But it was nice to see him there. He called me an intelligent fucker, which is very sweet. Very, very sweet.
Loving words.
Yes.
Loving words. Again, the way you write about him is so much compassion, and acknowledging the flaws and the things you don't like and the ways that you were raised in a way that um, you didn't love, I'll say, but you still wrote about him with such compassion, and you did give him grace. And the essay, when you're talking about, you said, I don't love small talk, but you guys connecting on the weather, like
Yeah.
just the 3 lines that you had, Houston, New York, Houston, LA. To me, that was so much conversation based on that little section, based on the person you showed us he was. So when you write about people in your life, do you think about the way it's different how you write about yourself?
Yes, I always think about that. I always follow my friend and fellow. She's such another. You're an amazing Janet Mock, amazing author. She's always been very like direct in her interviews and even talking to me. She's like, when you're writing about your life, you're not just writing about you. You're writing about other people, and you should be very. I'm paraphrasing now, but just mindful of that. Not every detail about somebody else's life you don't have permission to share. So there are certain things that I can fill in for context, but it's not really my place. So just wanting to be respectful of that, but being honest, I try to really walk a fine line on I'm divulging what I've seen and experienced, and maybe other things that I know about. I'm not gonna necessarily put in there because that's not my place. Just to be respectful, and even with like that chapter, I just honestly, a lot of people I know online, but just in person, they might complain like, "Oh, my parent is bothering me," or they don't want to talk about nothing, or yada yada yada. And even before all of this stuff happened with me and my family, I was aware like you actually, because I have friends that have already lost parents. I'm like, you don't really know how much time you have with somebody. And while I give people like grace and like in some cases, particularly like queer and trans people or anybody, like maybe you can't maintain a relationship with somebody in your family. Maybe it gets to the point where like it is that bad and you have to do what's best for you. That's unfortunate, but sometimes you do what you have to do. But I think in a lot of cases, that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. So with that chapter, I was just very intentional just to say, you really don't know how much time you have with people, regardless of what happens. I would like to think every day is an opportunity to change something or to get something right or to kind of reach some different conclusion or space with a person that you might not have had the day before. So in that instance, that was just me encouraging people to try because you don't know. And I do appreciate that some people have already hit me saying that made me reevaluate some things, or like I reached out to my dad or I reached out to my mom. I'm like, good for you. And I don't even mean to patronize. I'm like, no, really good for you. I hope it works out because a lot of us, unfortunately, we're dying younger. A lot of us my age or my mom's age have cancer. Like there's just so much happening. There's actually been some more stuff going on in my family that's been really worrying. Like you just don't know what you have, and it might be gone before you know it. So if you have an opportunity, I hope you take it because you can be like me and miss out on time that you just will never get back. So I really just went on a very simple level just to say, this is how I try to work with like what is a very chaotic background, where it's not going to be like, oh, I'm sorry I did this. He's still literally denying certain stuff. And that's when I'm like, all right, get off the phone, bye. But if I can have a conversation, which is most times, then I think you should really try it, just within whatever is your boundary.
I love that because I think so much of what we are told nowadays is no contact, don't speak to anybody who's ever hurt you. And I think that what you're saying is that shuts a door, and that door is shutting you as well. And you giving him an opportunity or giving people an opportunity to be who they are says a lot about the person that you are.
I appreciate that.
You're an amazing person. I don't want to sit here and talk about how amazing you are. I mean, I could. But what I want to know is there a book in you that is purely Michael, that is about you and how you feel, not connected to the macro at all, but just purely micro?
Maybe, but honestly, I might be going like the Joan Didion route in the next book, and really, I'm kind of in my sad boy era, so I think I just need to kind of own the grief. That's actually my reluctance to say maybe I don't want to go into it, but kind of the more I think about it, and honestly, just the more I'm living each day, I'm like, this is where you are at, and you might not be in this exact place now, but grief is a lifetime. So I think it won't yeah, I'm not there yet completely, but yeah, I think I'm in my sad boy era. So I think maybe in terms of fiction and nonfiction, I'm probably going to be writing more from that space. I have a couple months to kind of really play around with things and figure it out, but I think I kind of need to be honest about where I'm at.
Yeah.
So that'll come, but I don't think that'll be like the next one. I can hear one of my editors screaming, but it's fine. Actually, no, they'll like that sad shit. It'll be better. Sorry.
I mean, you'll get a deal out of it, I'm sure. All right, let's just switch gears. Beyonce,
Yes.
why didn't you like Break My Soul? Like, I need that explained to me. Initially.
I mean, when it first came out, I was like, oh, we in the legacy era. Maybe I just wasn't in the play. I might have been grouchy. I don't know. It didn't hit. And I was like the sample. I was like, it's cute, but like it wasn't. Should I be quiet? It's like she gonna get me. I'm looking at a friend. I'm like, oh no. Cause actually, let me be quiet. Cause I'm trying to get them to open my books over on that side of the family, and y'all gotta lift me in prayer about that. Cause they over there. So, I mean, it just wasn't my thing. I'm gonna blame me. It was me. And then I heard Renaissance, and I was like, shut up. And then the sequencing made sense. And then I went to the show. And I definitely sang it. So, you know, it was my fault. I'm just blame me.
I'm the direct opposite because I loved Break My Soul when it came out. And Spotify was like, listen, it only came out last week. How are we still playing this? But it took me a year to listen to Renaissance.
Oh.
It took me relax. I'm a fan now. Like, I'm there. It took me a year to listen to it because I don't know what happened. Something happened. And I was like, I heard Thick. I heard Thick first, and I was like,
well, I wouldn't say that wasn't the best introduction.
I didn't know you were supposed to listen to it in order. Like, I was late to that too, so I was just skipping around. Like, oh, Thick.
Well, Mother's intentional, you know. No, not.
Yeah, I'm a late fan. I'm a fan now. Please.
Welcome.
Thank you.
As long as you're not a BTS.
A what?
A BTS.
What's that?
People that don't see the light.
No, I love B. I'm not a.
It's fine.
I'm not Hive. But I really like what I loved about the album. Sorry, we're going to talk about Beyonce now. Is what you said. It's such a testament to who she is and the people that she performs for. But it took me a year because I wasn't listening in what's that word? 5 words. What? In order. Thank you. I was listening in order, but when I read that, I was like, how do you not like Break My Soul?
Well, hopefully she forgives me for that because I liked everything else except I Am Sasha Fierce that first side. Dang, I just messed up again. I'm sorry, Beyonce.
She's
I'm
wonderful.
Sorry.
She's fantastic, and
I'm original Hive.
Yeah, from before.
Yes.
When I first met you through Helena, hi, you were a Hive. What do you think about the Cowboy Carter era? Oh no, unless it's a wonderful thing. I'm not trying to get into like a you having to excuse yourself from Beyonce conversation.
Oh, I mean, Texas Hold'em sound like Black Night at the Rodeo, so I'm fine with it. But generally speaking, the reason why I wrote about that, and besides being wrong, is that I actually, I love the music. I like the beat. I like all that. But generally, I feel like I've learned a lot from her just as a Houstonian, how black and country she is. And honestly, now in her 40s, I think she's hitting like creative peaks, which I find really inspiring as I'm about to turn 40 in a few weeks and I'm entering my uncle era. It's reminding me that like I put in the book, if you stretch and you believe in yourself, things can still happen. Because I would like to think things can still happen. And unlike Usher's new album, I'm not gonna try as hard. It wasn't good. I love it, and he took a picture with that man. It's fine.
What man?
Russell.
Oh.
Exactly. My people. Thank you.
When was this?
Recently.
It's not like an old picture that resurfaced?
It was like a few weeks ago.
It wasn't an old picture. Oh.
He got a comeback and had all that and then
like,
threw it away.
Like, did he leave the Super Bowl stage and like fly to Bali?
Yes.
Oh, for real? Oh. Moving on. What's your next? I'm sorry. That's like recently.
It's disappointing. I'm sorry.
Was Diddy there? Like, was it a whole? Okay.
I'm about to fall out. Hold on.
What's
He might have been. I don't know.
What's your move away from that? When are you going on vacation? Like, when's your rest period from all this? That's what I really want to know as your friend.
I don't know. I got a new product, so I go home tomorrow, and I still have a media hit list. I'm like, you ain't hit me yet. You better put me on here. So I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing for my birthday. Maybe I'll go do something next month, somewhere like a little mini vacation. But I have a lot of work to do.
You
A
deserve
lot
a
of stuff
break,
going on
though.
with like my family. I kind of need. I have to be a little bit more active than I probably would like to be, but it's what it is.
But you deserve a break.
I know.
There's a little bit, a weekend, something just for you.
We gonna work on it. We gonna
This is
pray.
phone conversation.
She really know me. I'm sorry, y'all.
I'm just so happy to see you.
She
I
like, wait,
really
we had a
am.
book event, but I ain't seen you in a minute. What's
I
up?
know. I know. I'm so glad to see you. I really am, and I'm happy that you asked me to do this, even though I'm nervous as.
Oh, she said.
Or I can curse. Nervous as fuck, but I want you to know that you're so loved.
You
and
know this is
so
my
many
book event because people are cursing. But yes.
All right, so let's get back to the book. What do you want people to take away from when they put the book down and they start thinking about it? What do you want them to take away from it?
I'm not overly preachy like certain directors, but generally speaking, like I want people to laugh. I want people to think. I think now more than ever with this book in particular, I want people to feel less alone. I think I write a lot about the plague, which is I know a lot of people don't want to talk about that. They want to pretend 2020 didn't happen, but like 1 million people died, the world shut down. A lot of things have never been the same, and I didn't even realize how much it impacted me until I was tasked with filming this book, and I didn't realize how much grief I was carrying. I didn't realize how much loss. I mean, I knew on an intellectual level, but it kind of hits you. At least it hit me upside the head. So I kind of wanted to give people space to feel like less alone about that period. I wanted to be really honest about my grief that I was carrying. This is pre my mom, but I think a lot of people are quietly carrying it or don't talk about it as much. I want Tony Braxton to unblock me.
I wanted to ask you.
I know. I started with a Tony Braxton shirt today, but I'm away. I'm going to beg another time.
So she still hasn't unblocked you.
No, but it's Twitter. It's a horrible place, but it's just the point. I'm still offended because it's like,
You didn't deserve that.
no, I am like an original Tony stan.
Yeah, you didn't deserve
Before puberty took my voice and I wanted to be like an R&B singer, I used to write fake Babyface songs, but I don't like, there's somebody in the crowd, I don't like the judgment, but I had a voice then, it went away. So I've always loved Tony Braxton, and as I was trying to promote her new single, I'm like, I'm blocked. Just kind of like with Janae Eiko, but I accepted that one. I just listen to sound bowls now and just thank her from afar. But Tony Braxton, I'm like, we gonna work on that. The Braxton family coming back. I'm like, let's work in sync.
I think you should write about the new season. She'll unblock you then.
I hope so, because I'm like, being called the Suge Avery of R&B is not an insult. Don't do that. It was not an insult. If you went to that tour with her and SWV, you would have got it. Go look it up on YouTube. You'll be like, Suge Avery. I like Suge.
Okay.
Y'all looking like that's why you got blocked.
I mean,
okay.
That's how I feel. And I was like, oh, maybe she should keep you blocked.
Suge Avery
Just for a
is
little
not
bit.
an
I mean, to you, but you don't know her relationship with Suge Avery.
Okay, that's fair. It was a misunderstanding.
But I'll maybe I'm blocked. Shit, I don't know. I was gonna say I'll tweet her and tell her I'm blocking.
Yeah, y'all tweet her actually later.
Not all at once though.
No, all
like
at once.
stagger it. So
Get her.
you don't want her to feel ambushed.
No, it need to get out there.
Okay, ambush her right now. Pull out your
She
phone.
ain't
girl,
been listening to them little one-off tweets for years, so maybe we need force. But yeah, no, generally speaking with the book, like I want people to laugh. I want people to think. I want people to feel less alone. If they have other things they take away from it, that's great. And I hope, people share with me while I'm doing these things. But for the most part, I kind of have really simple goals with the books. I don't really want to like beat people over the head with what to take away from it. I'm like, this is my way of sharing my story about how I feel about certain things and hopefully relate to it. And if you don't, thank you for purchasing. Don't take it back. But yeah.
I left my book in there, but I had all these notes. But I wanted to tell you that you did a fantastic job of writing about the loneliness during the beginning stages of the pandemic. It pulled me into that place where I thought I'd forgot. I think a lot of us forgot.
Yeah.
We needed to forget, but I think it's important that we acknowledge just how difficult a time that was, but how important it was for us to sort of figure out what to do for ourselves, like your haircut, and what to do for like the greater good. And I think you struck a really good balance of like showing that to us.
I appreciate that. Loneliness, like there's a real loneliness epidemic in the country. It was kind of before that, but I think that accelerated. I don't think a lot of people talk about it in earnest. So that was like my contribution, and something hopefully I can explore further in different things. But I really appreciate that, because I think, again, like a lot of stuff happened and we just were all like, go back to work. And honestly, even in my grief, it's just sort of like, okay, your mom's out, your book's out, yay. And that's just not how life works for a lot of us, at least not for me. I love my mom. I'm not just like, yay, I'm back to work. That's not, work is work. So thank you.
You're welcome. All right, question time. How you feel?
I'm good, yeah.
All right, so there's a mic right there for anyone who has questions.
You mentioned that in your book you talk about the pandemic and your reaction to it and things like that. And there's, of course, a lot of politics about this pandemic, and which are might be similar to some of the politics during the AIDS outbreak decades earlier. A lot of controversies and things. And I wonder if your publisher allowed you to actually give all of your true opinions, or whether it's still being embargoed.
No, I have a different publisher than the first two books, but it's the same editor. Rakesh usually rocks with me whatever I want to say. I understood that parallel at the time, but I think because I wrote so much about that epidemic and how it informed in terms like introduction to like what I thought it meant to be gay about my uncle in my first book, I think I explored that. So it wasn't necessarily something I wanted to revisit in that context, but just generally speaking, my editor actually really encourages me to say what's on my mind, and to write the way I want to, which is a lot rarer in publishing than I kind of realized. And to know people that know me personally, that read my books, they're like, you write how you speak, which again is not often like afforded. But my editor has actually always really encouraged my point of view about what I want to say. Even the things he might not necessarily tell me, like, I don't know, Michael, but he usually gives me like the space to write about how I feel about a lot of things, regardless of how people feel about it. It's usually maybe legal that's like, I don't know, but legal didn't give me any problems this time. He laughed at most of my stuff, and he was like, I'm a straight man from Tennessee with 2 kids, and I hollered. So I was like, well, thank you for hollering and telling me I'm not gonna get sued. So yeah, I was cool. Thank you.
Hey, Michael.
Hey.
We have very parallel lives. I'm from Texas, gay, grew up religious, daddy issues. My mom just passed in January.
I'm really sorry.
Thank you. I love Beyonce, of course, too, and I bought all of my J's after the pandemic. She asked all the questions I wanted to ask, but I did want to let you know that what you set out to do in writing your story touched me. So I appreciate and thank you for doing that. And so I want to ask you is, what are you looking forward to through the rest of this year after this process and going through your grief and everything?
Thank you. Low key, I don't know. I know in April I need to go into grief counseling.
It does help.
I need to finally finish the pilot. And that wasn't my fault on the wait. Work on my pilot for the TV adaptation of my first book. Lift me in prayer about that too. And for me, kind of really take the rest of the year to kind of figure out what would make me happier, what would make me feel fulfilled. And honestly, I'm trying to figure out all the different ways, both like through my work and my art, just try to get back to the space where I really enjoy it and where it feels like less of a burden, which, to be blunt, I was really resenting myself for being a writer and writing professionally kind of for at least 2 years, last year especially, because I do think it kind of kept me from my mom. That's how I felt. I'll probably work that out through therapy later in the year, but just kind of getting back to a place where I really enjoy it. And honestly, doing the tour has really already started to remind me, I'm like, you're doing this with purpose, and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. So hopefully I just find peace, whatever that looks like, because I know I have a lifelong battle with grief to deal with. But also I want to make sure I find more ways to honor my mom through my work, and to something actually my cousin really, like, he sent a message really sweet. He was like, your mom had a touch with people. Everyone she met was touched by her, and her funeral was like really beautiful, and it was all types of people there that she touched. She didn't even know how much she impacted people. So I want to make sure that I figure out how to carry that legacy, because he was very, and he's like, you have the same touch, you just apply it differently. So hopefully I can touch more people in that way. And I'm actively, kind of when I go back home tomorrow, that's sort of the beginning of like me trying to figure out all the different ways that I can do that, and get back to the space where I am living with this new reality, but with less, I don't know, whatever anguish I'm kind of carrying. But I appreciate that question, because you reminded me I need to think more and more about it, because I have work to do all around. So thank you.
Thank you.
And sorry
Appreciate
for
it.
your loss.
Thank you.
Sorry. Oh, that is so nice.
So in the book, you stated that you wanted to grow old, and I feel like a lot of times we don't really give like black men their flowers.
Yeah.
So I wanted to give you some.
I really appreciate it. That is very nice. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I wanted to ask you about that too.
And with that, I know like in that chapter you were talking about like suicide of like your friends and stuff like that, and you mentioned your attempt. And so I was reading, I was kind of just like, well, I don't really feel like it's mentioned, but is it like subtle? Like, were you going through depression or?
It wasn't like I didn't attempt, but I've dealt with ideation. I mean, honestly, like just like the loneliness epidemic, just like a lot of people are dying younger. Like there are very high suicide rates, particularly among black men and black women right now under the age of 50. It's really, really high. I wanted to be honest about how that impacted me, like directly, but because of how I grew up and the circumstances, and I've been honest, I guess I'm being more honest now, like I've kind of had a on and off battle with depression all my life. Sometimes you kind of can't help what you're born into, it's whatever, but I just wanted to be honest. And one, like people have a lot of attitudes about those who you lose to suicide, and while like this idea that it's like a selfish act and they punish the person, or like they stigmatize those that like have lost from that. I'm not talking about that particular instance, but I generally speaking, I have other people I know that has happened. I kind of just also wanted to give grace to the reality, like even if I'm not gonna harm myself, I know what it's like to struggle with wanting to be alive, because like whatever, regardless of what you see or what you scroll through, life can be really hard for people. Even when you wake up every day with a good attitude, even if you wake up every day wanting the day to be better than the one before, like life can be really hard for people. And you know, this country doesn't make it easy for a lot of us, and I just wanted to be really honest for those who do struggle with that and what that's like, and to just be honest, like regardless of what the perceptions people have about me, like I know what it's like to struggle with wanting to be here, because a lot of different factors put you in that place, and not everybody can pull themselves out of it. So it was just me trying to be honest about how I was hurt by something, but also understanding what that feels like, because it's something that I've had to deal with. And I opened the book with a very particular thing when I was a child, but that was more so because I was just exposed to like a situation that was really hard to be in, and I was a child and I didn't have the means to get out of it. So that's just kind of what that was. But it was, again, just trying to be graceful to those that I know that are struggling with that, because I wrote, I know what that feels like. Yeah.
Oh, my second question is, give me 1 second. So, do you feel as a black queer writer, having to have like representation, do you feel like you have to be seen as perfect, or you have pressure to perform and always be on?
No, I didn't mean to scrunch up my face, but I don't like. I mean, I'm trying to say this respectfully, and not like I'm taking shots at anybody in particular. But I don't need to be a poster child for anybody. I'm not trying to be like the one. I'm not trying to be a certain way. And I come very much from the school of like people gonna think of whatever they want about you no matter what you do, particularly if they have a lot of different biases. So if you're racist and homophobic, I can call myself whatever I want, I can dress, present whatever I want, you're still gonna think ultimately what you want. And I've seen that time and time again. There's also something my mom instilled in me is like, don't expect people who already look through us to kind of uplift you, and don't assume whatever even people telling you in the moment, they might mean it. All I really am trying to do is write for people that I feel like have been looked through, and to honestly make it easier for people that come after me. And what I've been learning, at least on that, is like no matter amount of success that you achieve, you might have to keep proving yourself over and over again. When I'm realizing like that's probably gonna be a lifetime of stuff, and I don't mean this in an arrogant way, but like being pioneering is exhausting, and it's kind of never ending because people still really think the least of black queer folk. Or if you're like, because particularly in literature, it's kind of really snobby, elitist, on top of racist and sexist and whatever. So a lot of people looking through me already, but as long as I'm writing about what I want to do, as long as you all support me and people support me, then I think I'm doing the part. And fortunately, I do know, at least on small levels, not even small, like I know that I've at least helped other people get book deals, and they don't have to go through this BS of thinking like a gay black guy that writes like me and talks like me can't sell books. And actually, one of the things that I was saying that somebody from Houston that was like, I didn't know him, but he was like 22 from Houston. His mom's battling cancer. Reached out to me and was like, I didn't know you were from Houston. I found your second book. I didn't know that part of Houston you were from. That let me know that I can do this too. And I'm like, you know what? You're gonna do better than me, and hopefully I make it easier for you. Somebody I went to high school with, her son is 16. He wants to be a writer. She found out I went because my high school now, the original version was torn down. Used to look like a prison. They treated us like that. It's different now. It's all nice. I mean, they still make the news for other stuff, but whatever. But when the son found out that I went to the old Madison, I was from Harlem Clark, and she was saying he felt like, oh, I don't have to be a certain type of black person. I don't have to be from the suburbs. I don't have to be rich. I don't have to like go to this type of school. I don't need an MFA. I can actually have real tangible success. I can call myself one day some best-selling author, all of those things, which is nice. But that's good because that's the kind of impact I really want to make on people. I think, a lot of us pretend that like we love all black people, and I'm about to bring this up now and I think about it. When 2020 was happening, they were like, buy black books, or even now like buy banned books. I'm like, well, half of y'all goofy asses don't even like let all types of black authors get book deals. It's only certain types. You don't even love all black people. So what the hell are you talking about? Like, that's more so what I think about. I don't have that pressure about representation. I know a lot of people look through me, black or white. I don't care. I'm here to like prove myself and to make it easy for people like me, which is actually the majority. That's something I'm dealing with in TV, which is like the dumbest place on earth sometimes, but we're grateful. But those are the things I'm about. Yeah.
All right,
I hope I answered that. Don't be shy, ask more questions.
Any other questions? Comments? There you go.
Hello.
And I wanted to get people's names too. What was your name? Daryl. And your name?
David.
And Chris. Daryl, David, Chris. And your name?
Donovan.
Donovan.
Hi.
Oof, okay.
I wanted to ask on your creative process before 6 months ago and now, and just receiving feedback. I feel like you're the type that maybe is very straight and narrow with I think what I think and no one's changing on it. Trying to get into that space. I think a lot of creatives just have to take in so much to get their work seen. And it's like, well, this is my vision. This is my process. I like to stick to it. So any process you have going on, that would be great.
Well, you mean the actual writing process or dealing with like that about being amenable to change?
I guess both, kind of. But you can start with the writing process first.
Oh, well, I mean, my writing, this book was a year late. I was going through it. But my writing process for this book was like, okay, you are contractually obligated to finish this. You need to go and use that app that blocks you from the internet. Get out of your apartment or go somewhere else to finish it. Fool, finish the book, finish the book, finish the book, finish the book. Go home, see your mama, finish the book, finish the book, finish the book. That was more so, that literally me hitting my head and blocking myself from the internet is part of it. It's not my usual process. Usually it's like start in the morning, clean, because I'm avoiding it. Bop around my apartment, I'm still avoiding it. Okay, I really need to write. lock in, get it out, rinse, repeat. So my process the last year or so has been chaotic because, yeah, I mentioned resentment writing. In terms of like I am who I am, this is what I want. Life don't always work that way. It depends on the medium. I'm fortunate that with the books, eventually I found an editor that wanted to work with me, that respected my voice, that did not want to dilute it, that understood the story I was trying to tell, and only wanted to make it better. So you have to be amenable to edits. You have to be all of that. But my editor trusted me, and I trusted him. So that's a great working relationship. In terms of being more minimal, like, okay, let me change this. I just want to get out this other leg out the hood. That's more of a TV thing. When my second book was optioned, it was at HBO Max for a while, and I was working with a production company. And there were creative differences because I was very like, you do realize the show I pitched and the book I pitched, right? I meant that, right? That cases, I changed certain things to be amenable because it's very much a team effort. It's not just you. But there were certain things I'm like, I don't know how many times I'm going to tell you, I'm not changing this. It don't work. And the network on my side, leave me alone. But usually I am actually pretty amenable depending on the thing. I just want to be better, and I want it to be excellent. And I just want it to be the best it can be. And if you can teach me, because especially in that medium, I'm still learning, so I'm very open to that. But I did learn by the end of that process, and then I'm carrying. Well, actually, I've been learning because I'm like in year 6 of that. Be amenable, but stick to your guns about certain things, because again, like a lot of people in that world and publishing, whatever, honestly, all of it, have very dumb views and limited views about what it means to be me. And they're not me. And in that regard, I know me better than you. And I also know the communities I'm writing for. I know the numbers behind it. I know your goofy ideas of what LGBTQ and all them letters look like. I know your ideas of what black people are ridiculous. None of that makes sense. If you trust me, we'll get there. But what do I need to change? Some things I'm willing to change. Some things I'm like, no, you about to set me up. I finally would get something to be corny, and I can never live it down. So I think it's a balance, but I am, like, I know I'm very assertive. I know I have a very strong point of view, but I am pretty amenable usually because you have to be depending on how far you want to go, because I'm not difficult to work with, but you do have to also be protective of your voice and your story, because people will trample it and dilute it and make it something that you don't want it to be. And I would hate to spend this much time and so many years and all these sacrifices that me, my mom, all made, and it not be what I want it to be. And I'd rather make what I want than something that's not really going to be true to the material. So it just depends. But for the most part, be firm, but be open, because most of that stuff is a collaborative effort no matter what.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, what you do also is you rely on your community. You send me, you're like, I'm telling the network this, but you ask me, was that the right thing to do? Should I say
Yeah, sometimes I'll be like, look, do I sound crazy or am I being difficult?
Yeah.
And I'll be like, no, fool, tell them that. They'll set you up. So it depends. Or like, no, change that, take that word out, Michael.
Yeah.
You're a little hot. But I really am amenable.
Yeah.
It's just that part of, you can see it on my face, but I usually describe TV development as life sucking.
Thank you both.
But I think it's
You know
important.
that.
It's important. It's important to note that you are open to suggestions and things like that from people you trust.
Yes.
Yeah, you just make sure that they don't know that you're that open and
Yeah,
They'll
but
try to
usually
get
I
you.
tell people like
They'll try to get you.
I really do try to communicate. I'm open. It's just sometimes you gotta know when to close that door, because they'll set
And it's
you
not
up.
arrogant. You don't do it out of arrogance. You have a very strong point of view.
Yeah,
And
I'm
that's
polite.
different.
I'm very southern and
That's
polite.
different. Yeah.
Hey.
So Joseph, and as someone who lost both their mother and their father, and before the age of 40, it sucks, but keep going. And just from the talk tonight, I've kind of been wondering what was the grief book that I was going to read. As a son who lost their mother, and my mother was my last surviving parent, and I think that this might be the book that kind of ends up being my grief book. And then I lost my mom in 2021, so it's getting ready to be 3 years. And I mean, even if you do the Joan Didion thing, like you'll fulfill the quota that they want you to fulfill and kind of do the whole tragic homosexual thing, so that can be a notch in your belt.
Yeah, that's so funny. Cause yes, that's so funny.
And then I'm also with you on the Usher thing because the last album it was a little bit long, definitely didn't need a deluxe edition, and I was kind of like, you're rounding up to 50. Why are you still talking about this?
That
Um,
big song, yeah.
but and then like my questions, even from the talk tonight, and you made me think about it when you said the South has something to say because you are very Southern. So my questions to you, kind of like as a cultural critic, did you listen to the new Andre 3000 album, and what did you think? And then also, what did you think about Cord Jefferson's comments in the press room after the Oscars?
Oh, I'm being recorded. Hey, Cord. Okay. Wait, that threw me up. The first question. Sorry, what was the first question
The
again?
first question was, did you listen to the Three Stacks Flute
Oh
album?
yes. I did listen to the Flute album. It's cool. It's a great album to go to sleep to, and that's not shade or clean. So I do listen to the Flute album. I might go to sleep to that later. Okay. I like Cord. So oh shoot. This is me failing as a politician. I get why people have an issue. Okay. Oh, how do I want to answer that?
We respect Cord's work, and we're happy that he won his Oscar for
Thank you.
American Fiction.
Yes.
Amen.
Oh wait. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna let that go. What she said. I'll say about American Fiction. I really enjoy that more as a family drama, particularly about elder care. The social commentary about publishing to me was of a different era. That's not how life works. It's plenty of hood lit novels. They sell hundreds of thousands of copies. White people don't care. If a book like that would have gotten all that literary awards and all that stuff and money, it would have been a white person writing it because they're doing that right now. And I don't mind slave movies. I think that's a part of our history that we need to talk about. We don't talk about enough. It informs everything. You don't have to watch it. I think people in the hood have as much to say as anybody else. I understand that he's talking specifically about dealing with racist, dumb Hollywood executives. At the same time, I also think it's very important to just like, I don't have this embarrassment about where most black people are in terms of their financial status in this country. I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of. I don't think there's anything wrong. I think plenty of people from the hood got something to say and have value stories. I'm one of them, so I don't have that. Like, I know how to speak in those circles, but I also know where I'm from, so I don't have that. So I think maybe the way things have been worded, even if not meant specifically as they might have come across, I understand why that's so off-putting. But yeah, I understood the critique, but I would have worded that a lot differently because if you're turning off black people while other people are cheering and applauding your work, and it's supposed to be like a biting racial satire, oh, it's probably gonna be in trouble. You maybe should worry about that. Is that good enough? I'm gonna shut up now.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. I love Cord though. I'm happy for him, but yeah, I got you. I didn't like that either.
Did you like American Fiction?
Yeah,
Oh,
I liked the movie.
I didn't like it.
Oh.
Sorry.
Hello, my name is Bradley. My question is, what advice do you have to young writers who hope to be in your position one day?
You can still write and you can still do a lot of things. I will say, like, the model to sustain yourself is really challenging right now. And I honestly don't know how to navigate breaking in now and sustaining oneself. I think, well, generally speaking, a lot of us have to do a lot of different jobs and do a lot of different things that maybe otherwise wouldn't do to get by, or to do, you might have to do more things that you don't want to until you can do something else. But yeah, I actually worry a lot about publishing. Literacy rates are falling. Private equity is ruining a lot of things. I don't know. I would say, like, it's not impossible. A lot of things are possible. I mean, people have dealt with worse circumstances and went on to produce things. So the world is on fire, but I'm still really hopeful. I just think, you might have to do a lot of different things now because there's no, even when I graduated, like, things were imploding. It's a lot worse now. It actually kind of reminds me of the worst version of when I graduated college. So I would say write every day. You don't need to be online all the time. That doesn't help. You might have to do different types of jobs. But yeah, just be more aware of, like, a changing market. I think it's very important people study, like, the industry they want to enter, particularly writing, as much as it is the craft themselves, because yeah, it's rough out here, but it's still possible. I think anything is possible. It's just it is harder to navigate now, to be blunt.
So we have to end this, right? Thank you guys for being here. Before we get out of here, Michael, I'm so happy that you're here.
Me too.
You're one of my favorite people in the world.
Same.
But on top of that, you're one of the best writers of this generation, and I think you know that. You're going to be studied in schools, and I know that for a fact. And I want you to know that I'm just glad you're here.
I really appreciate that, and hopefully that next election don't change that. But thank you.
We're talking about
thank
you.
Thank y'all for coming.
We're talking about
No, I
you.
meant
Thank
the
you guys so
teacher
much.
part.
I finally bought some Jordans. If
Go
you
buy
haven't bought
books